Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to your Calendars franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we reworked our lines, also made a small trade for a new backup goaltender, and this team actually had a very good second half of the season compared to the first half, because the first half, I think we only had like 20-something wins and like 17 regulation losses, but we ended up finishing off the season with like only like 24 or 25, so our team definitely turned it around in that second half. Like I said, we did make some line adjustments, so Giordano moved back to center, which is his natural position instead of the wing. Also, we called up Ragnarsson from the AHL, and he was a fantastic call-up from the AHL as he picked up 41 points in 41 games, so there is a chance that this guy could be a Calder favorite, because obviously if he would have played all 82 games, he would have probably definitely been the Calder winner, but since he only played half the season, I'm not too sure if he'll actually win one or not, but he was a fantastic call-up. Also, in terms of, I said, the goaltending, we decided to trade for a new backup, so we got rid of Hatcher, I think it was, and in came Amrit Latowski, and he was actually really good as a backup goaltender for us too, posting a 910 save percentage through 8 games, so our goaltending is actually a lot better than it was early in the season, which is nice to see. And then, as I said, the lines getting adjusted, I think that helped out things a lot as well with the offense. So if we go back to this main screen, you can see actually we finished 6th in goals for, 8th in goals against, 10th on the power play, and 14th on the penalty kills. So the special teams still maybe need a little bit of work, but it's okay. I think they could definitely figure themselves out in the playoffs. I'm just hoping that obviously they don't run stagnant, because obviously we are beginning to be taking on a very good Blue Jackets team that we took on last year as well in the playoffs. They have won a Stanley Cup somewhat recently too, so they are definitely a lot tougher than they might look. They are 51-26-5 during the season, and they were also top 10 in everything in terms of goals for, goals against, power play percentage, and also penalty kill percentage. So it should be interesting to see how good this first round matchup goes. I think it's definitely a type of series that could go to 7 games because, like I said, they have a lot of experience on the roster. We've had some experience in our roster for sure too, but we haven't been able to win that Stanley Cup yet. So hopefully we do not get knocked out in the first round, because we are running into a pretty good team. So definitely got to contain guys like Woodworth again, because Woodworth again was a very good goal scorer as he was last year when we played them. He had 60 goals last year, 52 this season. So I expect him to be one of their major threats this playoff run. And then from a defensive standpoint, their defensive core is actually pretty good. By comparison to a lot of other teams, I'd say they're one of the stronger defensive cores, because there's a lot of teams that have defensive cores with 78 overall type of players on this. This has all 80 plus. And they also do have this solid goaltending too with Evan Gardner, who's posted some pretty good numbers in the past despite only being an 83. So I definitely think this should be a pretty even matchup. I definitely think we probably have the better roster on paper, but they have maybe the more experience and that Stanley Cup win that they got a few years ago. So that could play a factor in this series or not. But anyways, before we get into this first round matchup with the Columbus Blue Jackets, let's get into your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we'll make sure we're set up and ready to go for game number 1. So the first comment is from Garage TV, who says, definitely was worried throughout the season. I would consider moving out for Rendell while he has top value before the decline. Ragnarsson move into a top 6 role permanently and bring up Ulf Sundin for the bottom 6. So he's saying that basically once we get to the offseason and stuff like that, this might be the best idea, is to move out from Anton Frundell. And I tend to agree. I think that's probably the best idea. Obviously, I wasn't expecting Ragnarsson to be as good as he was when he jumped into the NHL, but he was fantastic. So I think having Karain and Ragnarsson as the top 2 left wingers, or maybe we move Seal Fido over to the left side, Ragnarsson plays the right side, I think it would be very good for our top 6, and it will still keep that top 6 pretty much the way we want to, except for obviously our captain would be gone. And Anton Frundell's been here for a long time, but he has started to decline in play a little bit. That's where I'm kind of thinking about dealing him away as well. A few years ago, he had 111 points, but this year only 64 points. So I don't know if it's just because there's more offense to go around throughout the team. So basically, he's taking a bit of a cut or what. But regardless, I think this probably could be one of his last runs with this team to try and get a Stanley Cup before we decide to ship him out. And he's got a chunk of value too, because he's a franchise player right now. are listed as one at least. So I think trading away him before he starts to drop off is actually a good idea as well. He's got only 2 more years left on his contract after the season, which isn't too bad. So if we can't trade him, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, we will probably look into trading him at the draft if we can't win a Stanley Cup here. If we do win a Stanley Cup, maybe I would keep on to him. But at the same time, I think Ragnarsson regardless needs more ice time. So it might make sense to get rid of Frundell even if we do win a Stanley Cup this season. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. And the last and final comment is from Senator Taku, who is also a reply to what Garage TV was saying, who says, was going to make a similar comment. I think this is Frundell's last chance at a cup as an Islander. You have too much good talent that needs a prominent place on the full-time NHL roster. And yeah, that's pretty much true as well, because Ragnarsson should be in a top 6 type of role. He's actually listed as a second-line forward already. Then you have guys like Leahy should maybe get a bigger chance this upcoming or next season. Nielakainen, I'm not too sure if he'll come back or not, but there's definitely guys like Bigras who could be a third-line guy next season. Corley, who could be a third-line kind of guy. And I think obviously there's more guys in the AHL as well, and unsigned dudes too. Like technically, Bure is probably not going to make it, but Sundin obviously could make it back up here as a depth option. He did actually start the season off on our NHL team, so there is a chance he could get called up again at some point. So we do have options at least if we decide to move on from Frundell. If we trade away Frundell, if we want to, we could always trade for another defenseman or something like that, or a better goaltender. I don't even know exactly what I want to trade Frundell for. That's the one thing I'd be a little bit worried on. Maybe I would trade him for like just a bunch of draft picks, or maybe some more prospects to replenish our prospect pool, but there's not really much that this team needs in the sense in terms of like prospects, because we have a lot of good unsigned guys too. Because if we actually go to our contract situation, I'm pretty sure we have a lot of unsigned talent that are actually really good too, that I haven't signed yet. Like, yeah, look at this. We have literally 1 medium elite defenseman. We have a bunch of low elite 2s as well, mostly on forward side of things. A lot of them don't look like they're going to pan out though, which is unfortunate. Then we also have some medium 6s too. So like we have a lot of good prospects. The goalies, we have a high elite prospect. So I honestly don't think we probably need too much. So if we do trade away Frundell in the offseason, it's probably just going to end up being for like a first round pick and a prospect, or we just find some other prospects that might end up panning out to being something decent for us. But with that said, I think we're ready to get into this matchup. I want to make sure my lines are the way I want them to be, which I think they are. Obviously, Ragnarsson could get back into the top 6 during this playoff run if Cialfido, for instance, isn't playing good. We could always demote Frundell if he's not playing the best. We could definitely rework these lines accordingly, but to start off the playoffs, I think these are the lines we want to go with. Obviously, I'm a little bit worried about Novoselicev and his ice time, because he is still playing on the top 6 despite being listed as a top 4. But he hasn't complained, I'm pretty sure, about his ice time so far, which is kind of nice. I think it's because he's on the penalty kill and such like that. But if any of these guys start to complain about ice time, like Albrecht is maybe one of those type of guys. It doesn't say anything because I guess it gets rid of it when you leave the mode for some weird reason. But he's listed as a top 4 defenseman. He probably should be getting more ice time. So we might have to make some tough decisions this offseason with the defensive core as well, so we could get people more ice time, which is interesting. And then to start the playoffs, obviously we'll start off Solovyov and see if he's actually going to continue his good play that he has sometimes during the playoffs. If he's not very good, maybe we give a chance to Letowski, who we brought in from the Ducks, because that guy is assimilating pretty good with this team so far, so maybe he could help be like one of those cheese type of goaltenders in the playoffs as well and help us to some wins. But with that said, let's get to the first game of the playoffs and see if we could continue on this very good second half of the season. Like I said, first half of the season, I believe we were like 23-17 or something like that. Actually, wait, I wouldn't be 23-17 because I simulated 41 games. It would have been 24-17, I think we were to start the season. And we actually ended up finishing with, how many wins was it again? 54 wins. Like, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to think here. I think in the second half of the season, we might have went like 38-2 or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I know that I looked at it when I was editing the video and I figured out it, but I can't remember what it was now. But I know we had over 30 wins and less than 10 regulation losses in the second half of the season. So we're on a very good streak. I don't know if it's going to continue in the postseason, but I really hope it does. So let's get to game number 1, see what we could do here, see if we can build off, like I said, the good second half of the season. Because it started off quite sluggish this year, but those line adjustments really helped things a lot. First period, game number 1. 1-0. That's not a bad start. Our only goal was 23 seconds into the game, as it's from Tatar, so a defenseman scores, which is kind of nice to see. We have been getting good defensive goal scoring as well when we get into playoff simulations, it seems like, because if I remember right, last year we had a lot of goals from defenders. It's the same type of thing with my aliens mode. Like, I get goals from my defensemen quite often, which is kind of nice to see. Shots are 14-8 in favor of us, so a good first period in terms of generating chances. Gardner's been keeping his team in the game, which is not great. Can we find a way to get some insurance in that second period? Second period. Ooh, 3-2 Blue Jackets. Pretty bad second period there for Solovyov. He allows the first 2 goals of the period. Misa and Juracek. Crane ties it up, but then Lindstrom, with only a minute 21, restores that lead for the Blue Jackets. So that's a pretty disastrous second period. Definitely need to be better throughout every single period if we can. Like, we can't be showing up one period and then basically taking our foot off the gas in the next one. So shots are even, though, it's 27-27. So we're still in this game, but we need to be careful here. And we cannot allow that next goal, basically. Can we find a way to tie this game up in the third period? Let's see what happens. Come on, boys. Let's get that next one. They get the next one. Michael Misa again. Of course, it's the guy I could have traded for, but I decided not to trade for. Power play for us. We get a goal from Crane. So Crane's got 2 goals in game 1. Nice to see. Can we find a way to tie it up now? Penalty kill. Nicely done. And we do tie it up. It's Crane with the hat-trick goal. Wow, okay. Wasn't expecting us to come back from 4-2. But here we are. What a game this has been so far. And we are going to overtime in game number 1. This has been a pretty good game so far. I expected the series to go to 7 games, and I could definitely still see it going to 7 games, even though this is only game 1. Based on like the shots, like 41-36, both teams are generating a lot of chances. Both teams are converting on a lot of chances. I honestly have no idea who's going to win it at this point, but Crane has been a man on a mission for our team. He has all 3 of our last 3 goals, so hopefully he could help spark this team into a victory on home ice, because if we end up losing this game, we're going to need to take a game in Columbus at least. So let's see what happens in overtime. Who wants to be the hero? Who is it going to be? Who is it going to be? Come on, boys. I believe in yous. Maybe somebody like Houghton or something like that. I honestly don't know. Maybe Anton Frendel, and it's going to be, unfortunately, the Blue Jackets winning on overtime. So they do take one of our home games, despite us outshooting them 46-40. So that bad second period pretty much cost us in that one, because we did come back in the third period from 4-2, but we do lose 5-4 in the first game. So not ideal from Solovyov, but also maybe our defense wasn't the best in that one. So Tatar opened the scoring from Mäkinen and Bjorkstrand. Then we went down basically 2-1. Crane scores from Cialfito and Giordano to tie it up. Then they took the lead back, went up 4-2. Crane then scores from Mäkinen and Houghton. Crane scores again from Giordano and Cialfito. And then unfortunately Cardwell ends the game. So yeah, Crane was our only guy that pretty much showed up for the most part of that game. Now there was a couple other guys with 2 assists each, but yeah, Crane was the main guy that did stuff for his team. And he's not even on the first line. So maybe we need to move Frendel down to the second line already, because Frendel did not show up in that game. He was +1, had 2 shots on goal, but 24 minutes with no points. And then you had obviously Crane, who played only 20 minutes, had 3 goals. I think we might have to make an adjustment there already. And then from a goaltending perspective, Solovyov wasn't the best. He did face 40 shots on goal, but I'm not too sure if that's on the defense or on him. Because 40 shots on goal is a lot of shots to face, but he only allowed 5 goals. Crane gets first star in the loss, and then Michael Misa, David Juracek get the other stars. Of course, maybe I should have traded for Michael Misa, because I know a few seasons ago you guys were like, hey, you should trade for Michael Misa considering he's really low end. I didn't realize he was going to do that to me in the first game of the playoffs, but it is what it is. I'm trying to think if we want to already make some adjustments after that first game, because from a defensive standpoint and goaltending standpoint, it wasn't great. From an offensive standpoint, it was solid, but it was mostly one guy only, so maybe we do already want to make some adjustments here. If I swapped Crane and Frendel, how's the chemistry look? The exact same. Okay, well, just keep that then. So we'll go Crane, Mäkinen, and Bjorkstrand. We'll go Frendel, Giordano, Cialfito. Maybe we'll get Ragnarsson into the top 6 at some point. I'm kind of surprised Ragnarsson didn't pick up a point in that game, considering he was really good in the regular season. He was -2 in his only that first playoff game of his. We could always swap the defenders around too, but I'm not too sure if I want to do that. Like, I could move Albrecht up and then have Novoseltsov and Holmstrom play together. How was that second pairing out of curiosity? Because I know they were not great during a regular season. -1, -1. Let's keep it together for one more game. And then Solovyov had a pretty tough game, but he is going to get the start again in game 2. If he's bad in this game, Lechowski honestly could get the start for game 3 back in Columbus, I guess. All right. Well, let's make sure we don't lose both of our first 2 home games. If we lose both of our home games, it could be the home ice trend where the home ice team doesn't win till game 7, but at the same time, it might not be. So we got to be very careful here and find a way to respond after that tough overtime loss. So let's see what happens here. Game number 2, still on home ice. Can we tie the series up, headed back to Columbus? Let's see what happens. First period. 2-0 us. That's a way better start than last game. You know, we were up 1-0 after the first period last game. Koroliuk scores, and then 2 minutes later, it's Ciofito. Nice to see that. So a 4th line goal and a 2nd line goal. Shots are 9-9. It's a 2-0 lead for us. Let's just have a very solid second period this time around, not blow it like we did last game. Because last time around, the second period is what pretty much lost us the game. We were able to respond in the third period, but then we also lost in overtime. So if we have a better second period here, we have a higher chance probably at winning this actual game. So let's see what happens. Second period. 5-0. Wow, what a response. Power play goals from Frundell and Mackinnon. Giordano also scores. This is the type of effort I wanted to see. Now, our team has been scoring a lot of goals, actually, the last 2 games. Like, last game, we could have technically won that. We scored a lot of goals. This game, we're scoring a lot of goals as well, so it looks like at least the goaltending is getting some good support. Shots are not super high in this game, 18-16, but we're up 5-0, so Gardner might be pulled out of the net by now, which means we might be facing our backup the rest of the way, but Solovyov should have a pretty easy time locking down this game if he's good enough in the third period, so hopefully he could do that and help us get this win. So let's see what happens in this third period, see if we can lock this one down. We should be able to, considering we're up by so much goals, but it's been a very good effort from this team. A lot of goals from the top 6, which is nice to see. And of course, a couple goals from other lines too, as Lindstrom breaks Solovyov shutout, but that's okay. Howden answers right back to make it a 6-1 game as Franzen is in net now for the Blue Jackets, not the Islanders, what am I saying? Final few minutes, and it looks like we are going to be tying the series up, headed to Columbus with a convincing 6-1 victory. That's a very good statement, especially after losing in overtime last game. It definitely shows that we might be able to take the series faster than 7 games, but at the same time, Columbus could definitely respond on their home ice as well. Let's take a look at these goals. So, Koroliuk from Bigris and Jarvis. Then we had Ciofito from Giordano and Frundell. And then we had Frundell from Giordano and Crane, Mackinnon from Crane and Houghton, Giordano from Ciofito and Frundell, and Houghton from Crane and Mackinnon. So a lot of top 6 goals, but also the 4th line does contribute for the first goal of the game, which is nice. So 3 points from Giordano, Crane, and Frundell. Then you had 2 points from Ciofito, Mackinnon, and also Houghton, and a couple points from the 4th line. And some really good plus-minus from the top 6 pairing of Albrecht and Novoseltsev. That pairing was pretty good during the regular season. When we moved Novoseltsev down, that helped things out quite a bit. And from a goaltending perspective, great game from Solovyov to respond after a tough first game. First star of the game goes to Giordano, Ciofito gets 2nd star, and Frundell gets the 3rd star of the game. So moving Anton Frundell to that 2nd line has worked out well so far. We'll probably keep him in that spot until he starts to not play good again, and then maybe we'll move him back up again. But Ragnarsson still has not picked up a point in his first 2 career playoff games, which is kind of surprised, like I said, after how good he was during the regular season. Well, let's keep the lineup the same. Obviously, that was a very good offensive game, very good defensive game, good goaltending. So let's see if we can maintain that kind of momentum going forward as we head into Columbus for Game 3. Let's see if we could take our first lead of the series. Like maybe Game 1 was our only loss that we're going to have in the series. First period, Game 3. Scoreless, I'll take it. I mean, that's definitely our worst first period so far of this round because we have not scored a goal. But at the same time, they have not scored a goal in the first period so far through 3 games, which is nice to see. So at least it seems like we come out decent defensively. Shots are 12-6 in favor of us, so they didn't have a lot of chances in that period whatsoever. We generated double their shots, but we did not score a goal so far. So Gardner's kind of on his game as well for the Blue Jackets. Can we find a way to get our first lead of the night in the second period? Second period? 2 on us? Okay, that's a much better second period than a few games ago. Power play goal from Houghton. Then literally a minute later, they score a shorthanded goal from Nagy. Of course, it's Nagy, one of the other guys that I wanted to bring in from the Blue Jackets at one point. And then Giordano restores the lead for us. So once again, we're getting goals from some of our top players, which is awesome to see. At some point, we need to be not reliant on our top six, though. We need to have our other lines contribute, because if guys like Leahy can contribute, that will definitely help us in terms of winning rounds. Shots are 30-14 in favor of us, so we're dominating them in shots, but Gardner is still keeping them in the game, which is kind of scary. We need Solovyov to have a really good third period here and kind of weather the storm a bit, because I had assumed the Blue Jackets are going to generate a lot of chances in this third period, considering they're down by a goal. Can we find a way to hold them off and also maybe get an insurance marker so it's a little bit easier for us to breathe? Let's see what happens. Come on, boys. Let's get that next one. There you go. Ciofito early to start the third. That's a good way to weather the storm, scoring the next goal. Love to see it. Let's see. Final 10 minutes of this third period. Still up by a pair of goals. Outshooting by almost 20 shots, which is pretty insane. They do pull within one again. It's Nagy again. Damn it, Nagy. Final few minutes. Penalty kill. You got to kill this off, boys. Nicely done. And we hold them off just barely 3-2. So from a goaltending perspective, I mean, that's a solid game, but obviously they were within one out the entire game, and that's mainly due to their goaltender Gardner, but we do escape with the victory 3-2, so Ciofito ends up getting the game winner. We had 39 shots to their 24. They definitely pushed a bit near the end, but we do hold them off, which is good, and we take one of their home games just like they did to us. So Houghton from Crane and Mäkinen, Giordano from Ciofito and Frundell, Ciofito from Giordano and Houghton. So yeah, the top six has literally done a lot of work these last two games, which is nice to see. That's why we pay them the big bucks. Hopefully they continue to do that going forward. So Giordano, Ciofito, and Houghton all had 2 points. Crane, Mäkinen, and Frundell with 1 point. Nobody else picked up a point, and so far we're still waiting for Ragnarsson to show up this postseason. From a goaltending perspective, solid game from Solovyov. Not the most insane game, but he did enough to get us to victory. So 3 stars of the game in that one. Nagy for the Blue Jackets actually got first star, then with Ciofito and Giordano. All right. Pretty good little game there in Columbus. Hopefully we can find a way to take another one, because if we could take another one, then we're just 1 win away from that next round. So let's see if we could keep the momentum rolling. Because our only loss so far came in overtime. Like, we could have been up 3-0 at this point. So I definitely like the way we're playing as a team right now. Obviously, that first game, I didn't like our defensive game. But obviously, since moving Frundell down to the second line, not really touching anything else, I think our team has definitely found itself, especially in that top six in terms of offense, which is nice. So let's keep the team the exact same and see if Solovyov can string together 3 straight wins and solid victories too. Because if he can, maybe he's actually going to find himself this postseason, because I know he's had some rough postseasons in the past. So let's see what happens. Game number 4 still in Columbus. Can we take a 3-1 series lead, or are they going to tie it up? And is it going to be a best of 3 going forward? First period. Scoreless again. I mean, that's not too bad. I mean, I would rather it be a scoreless first period than being down by a goal or two. So far, they have not scored a first period goal against us, so we definitely come out of the gate not allowing anything in terms of goal scoring, which is nice. Hopefully that maintains itself for the rest of the series as well. Shots are 13-11 in favor of us, so we definitely outplayed them a little bit, but not by much. It's definitely a pretty even game up to this point. Can we find a way to get that game's first goal? Second period. Still scoreless. Okay, this is definitely a different type of game that we've not seen so far. Usually there's been some goal scoring after at least the first 40 minutes, but so far both goaltenders are having kind of like a standoff. The shots are really even, 24-23. Nobody has scored so far, so it's anybody's game going forward. Can we find a way to get that next goal in the third period? Let's see what happens. Come on, boys. Let's get that next goal. So far it's been a goalie stalemate. I don't know who's going to be the one to give up the first goal of the game. Hopefully it's not us. Final 10 minutes of the third period. Is it going to go to overtime? Maybe not. Jacobson opens the scoring for the Blue Jackets. That's not great. Do we have a response to that, though? Come on, guys. I know you have offense in you. Come on, please. And the answer is no, we don't. We get shut out 1-0, despite the shots being 35-35. So Solovyov was good in that game. Our defensive play, I'd say, was good in that game. But our offense did not show up this time around, which, like I said, if our top lines and stuff aren't doing that type of offense, we need our other lines to step up, and no other line showed up in that game. So literally it's been our top line for most of the series, which is not good, our top 2 lines. So maybe our bottom 6 needs to be reworked a bit, but not a terrible game. but definitely one we could have won just like game one. So it's not ideal that it's a tie series at this point in time. That sucks. 3 stars, Gardner, Solovyov, and Jacobson. Yeah, Solovyov has put together a pretty good playoff performance at this point, but now it's a best of 3. Ragnarsson still has no points this postseason through 4 games, which is kind of concerning. Obviously, it was really good during the regular season, but he is still learning himself probably in this NHL playoffs. Let's see what we could do in terms of our lineup here. Like I said, our top 6 has been good, but our bottom 6 has not done enough. Like, this third line has been quite quiet. -3 for Ragnarsson through 4 games. Same with Leahy, and same with Nielkainen. They have no points as a third line. The fourth line has points in 1 game. So the bottom 6 in general just hasn't done enough. But then you go to the top 6. Cialfito's on 6 points. You have Giordano on 7 points. You have Rondell on 4 points. Bjorkstrand's only on an assist. Damn, Bjorkstrand's been rough. You have Mäkinen on 5 points and Karain on 7. So Bjorkstrand's the only one in the top 6 that hasn't done his job. So just to try and get him going, I'm going to move Ragnarsson to the top line to try and get him to start producing on that top line. And just to try and get Bjorkstrand going, I'm going to move Bjorkstrand as the third line right winger next to Leahy and Nielkainen. I know Bjorkstrand probably shouldn't be this low. This is only just for like maybe 1 game or so, just to see if Bjorkstrand could get his game going, and then hopefully Ragnarsson could get his game going. Then we could swap them and see if they're back to scoring goals consistently again. But both those guys have been a bit of a disappointment so far. And then from a defensive standpoint, has there been any really bad pairings? The second pairing has no offense so far, and they're also negative. Meanwhile, that top 6 pairing's been our best defensive pairing. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to swap Novoseltsev and Holmstrom. And we're going to just do that as a defensive change, even though we've been a good defensive team. And obviously, we're still going to run with Solovyov because he's rocking in 926 so far through 4 games. So that's the only adjustments we're going to make, is moving Bjorkstrand down, Ragnarsson up, and then defensively moving Novoseltsev up and Holmstrom down. Just so we could see if that second pairing simulates better defensively, and also so we could try and get some offense from some guys that haven't done much this postseason so far. So with that said, I think we're ready to get to the next game. Obviously now it's a best of 3, so this is a pretty crucial game. Whoever wins this game will be 1 win away from the next round. Can we find a way to respond in Game 5? Well, just like what we did in Game 2, because obviously Game 1 we should have won. Game 4 we could have probably won that as well, so we got to be careful here. First period, Game 5. 1-0 us. Another good start offensively, I guess, and defensively. We still have not allowed them to score a first period goal in this entire series, which is quite impressive, I would say. Mäkinen with the goal, so once again, it's another top 6 goal, but at least the top 6 did score in this game, not like last game. Shots are 13-11 in favor of us. It's anybody's game going forward. Let's see if we could get some insurance in the second period and have another good second period like we did a few games ago. Second period, 2-0 us. So that's a good lead to have going into the third. Houghton with a short-handed goal, so nice to see the offensive defenseman jump up short-handed and score a goal. We are out shooting 25-18, only up by a pair of goals, so we got to still be careful. But can we find a way to lock this game down in the third? Maybe get an insurance marker to lock this game down in general. Let's see what happens. Third period. Come on, boys. Nagy pulls the Blue Jackets within 1, but we answer right back the first 2 goals in the first 2 minutes of the period, or first minute of the period. So Mäkinen's got a pair tonight. He's been a difference maker so far in this game. And there's another big goal from the top line. It is Anton Rondell. Actually, that's the second line. But Houghton then scores a power play goal, so our top 6 is coming alive here after they got shut out in the last game. They've been good for the last 3 games pretty much, or 4 games. Lindstrom makes it a 5-2 game, but that is not going to be the finals. Houghton actually completes the hat trick, so he might be the first defenseman we've had that's gotten a hat trick in the postseason. But we went 6-2, and we have taken our 3-2 series lead going into Game 6, which is nice. That's another good offensive game and another good defensive game and goaltending game. So maybe we just had a little bit of a hiccup with that last game where we weren't scoring goals, but those offensive adjustments might have helped things too. Mäkinen scores from Houghton and Ragnarsson, so Ragnarsson does pick up his first career playoff point after we moved him up. Houghton scores from Karain and Tatar. Then we have Mackinnon from Crane and Ragnarsson. So Ragnarsson another assist. Frundell from Giordano and Houghton from Giordano and Mackinnon, and Houghton from Tatar. So Houghton's been a man on a mission on that defensive core. He's got 5 goals this postseason. He had a 5-point game. When was the last time you guys seen a defenseman pick up 5 points in the playoffs? Especially for the New York Islanders, probably somebody like Denny Potvin or something like that. But Mackinnon also had 3 points. That was really helpful. Ragnarsson, Crane, Giordano, and Tatar all had 2 points. Frundell had the 1 goal. So it's pretty much just the top 6 that does everything. Like Bjorkstrand, we moved him down. He didn't do anything in that game. He did take a penalty. Did not have a single shot on goal. Actually, he had 1 shot on goal, which is not enough for a sniper. So he needs to be shooting a little bit more. And then from a goaltending perspective, Solovyov has maybe had his best start to a playoffs of his NHL career. So that's also really good. 3 stars of the game, Houghton in the 1st star, Mackinnon at 2nd star, Crane the 3rd star. That's so impressive, though, with Olli Houghton. Like, he's probably next in line, in my opinion, for captaincy behind Anton Frundell. It's either him or Crane. I'm not too sure, but both those guys really show up in the big-time moments for this team, which is nice to see. Apparently, Bigris is losing morale because of ice time. Same with Albrecht, which is not ideal. So we need to be careful on that. Hopefully those guys don't complain too much going forward, but I think we got to keep the team the same after a game like that. We'll probably move Bjorkstrand back up to the top line at some point. Obviously, Ragnarsson was really good on the first line, but obviously we shouldn't be playing an 89 on the third line. Like, technically, actually, let me look at the contract situation for a second. I'm trying to remember if we go back to, actually not the full-on contract situation. Let's just go to edit lines here. I think Bjorkstrand has a no clause on the moment, right? Because I was going to say maybe we would trade Bjorkstrand over Frundell, but I'm not too sure on that. Let's see. What is your clause? Yeah, he has a full... Actually, this year he doesn't have one. It only kicks in next year, so I don't think I'd be able to trade him at the draft because of that. This contract's kind of looking a little bit iffy the way Bjorkstrand's been playing as of late, but maybe he'll be better next year. Like, he literally only played 51 games this year, but he had 33 points. In the playoffs so far, he's been quite quiet. I'm kind of a little bit worried on him, to be honest. But like I said, if we move out from Anton Frundell, he will be in the top 6 playing maybe next to somebody like Ragnarsson instead of Ciolfito. Maybe that will help things and rejuvenate his career. But Bjorkstrand's had a tough time on the wing. Now, he is more of a center, so we could always flip him back to being a center and Giordano back to a winger spot too. But Bjorkstrand definitely needs to find his game a bit if he can. I think, yeah, we'll keep the lineup the same for this game, but obviously I think I'll move Bjorkstrand back to the top line, probably to start next round if we do get there. Just for right now, he needs to kind of figure out his game a bit, and then we'll put him back up again. But so far, there's been no problems really with this team other than a couple guys under simulating. Let's see if we could find a way to win this game and get ourselves to the next round. Or are we going to be going to a Game 7 back on home ice? Because it has been a back-and-forth series so far. Hopefully our offense is able to figure itself out more consistently, I'd say. Obviously, it's been consistent, but last game, 2 games ago, I guess technically now at this point, losing that 1-1-0. Like I said, if our top line decides to take another game off, obviously our third line has to show up in terms of goal scoring and all that. So let's see what happens here. Can we find a way to eliminate the Blue Jackets in the first round of the playoffs? First period. 1-0 us. For the 6th game in a row, we have not allowed a goal in the first period. So this team still knows how to play good defensively to start off games. The goaltending is obviously right away to start games as well. Knows how to play and not allow too much grade A chances, I guess, in a sense. I don't even know what I'm trying to say anyways. But Frundell has a power play goal for us, so our power play has been contributing a little bit. Not as much as probably it has in the past, but in general, the top 6 has been very, very solid almost every single game. The only game that they weren't solid, I guess, was that 1-0 loss. So, good start. Shots are 14-11. We're up by only a goal, so we got to be careful in the second period. We've had some bad second periods in the series before. That was more so in Game 1. Can we have a good second period here and keep this lead intact? Second period. 2-0 us. That's a nice little insurance marker. It's Mackinnon again, so... yeah, that top 6 is absolutely filthy right now, and I love to see that the top 6 is doing a lot of work for us. But like I said, I also want to see eventually the other lines start to contribute a bit more. Like the 4th line had 1 goal in this series so far. 3rd line hasn't done anything so far, which is a bit questionable. So if we can find ways to get that 3rd line going too, we'll definitely be a little bit better of a playoff team, I think, too. But shots are 26-18 in favor of us. Can we find a way to lock this game down in the third period and close out the Blue Jackets? Let's see what happens. Come on, boys. Let's get that next goal. Yeah, there we go. Bigris scores, and of course it's a bottom six goal. Like I said, the bottom six hasn't been scoring, so that's only the second time they've scored. And that is the fourth line again, not the third line. So the third line still has to find a way to score a goal eventually. But that's a big one. There's another fourth line goal, this time from Jarvis. So the fourth line steps up late in the series. And Solovyov is going to pick up a shutout. So that was probably Solovyov's best ever playoff series of his NHL career, as we do knock out the Blue Jackets in 6 games. Very good performance, I'd say, from this team. We had a lot of good offensive games, a lot of good defensive games, goaltending. The only bad game I'd say of this playoffs was probably maybe game 1, because we could have won that. But also I'd say that game where we lost 1-0. Aside from that, every other game was pretty good. We got goal scoring, like I said, from the top 6, from the fourth line. But the third line is definitely, I think, the only line that doesn't have any points, which is kind of surprising. So we had Frundell from Crane and Giordano, Makinen from Crane and Ragnarsson, Biggers from Schaefer, Jarvis from Houghton, and Tatar. All right. Let's see the stat lines here. So yeah, Crane with another 2 points. Biggers had the goal, and a bunch of guys on 1 point. Love to see it. And then goaltending-wise, Solovyov had the shutouts. So yeah, Solovyov's been really good this year, and I'm really glad we decided not to move on from him yet. So he gets first star of the game, Crane the second star, Biggers the third star. All right, pretty good first round. No complaints, really, other than that third line. Let's take a look at some of the stats after the first round for us, and then we'll see who we're facing off against in round number 2. All right, so let's start off by looking at the stats, I guess, for the forwards. Damn, man. Okay, maybe we'll look at forwards first. Actually, let's go by each position. So the centers, Giordano's been fantastic, 10 points in 6 games. So to me, he's definitely showing that he's worth that type of money. Obviously, we paid him a lot of money a couple seasons ago. I think this contract's not too bad. Hopefully, it doesn't fall off a bit over the next few years, but still really liking Giordano's play. Makinen has been fantastic, 9 points, obviously. He's had some big goals. Korliuk, 1 goal as a fourth liner is not bad. Bjorkstrand did pick up an assist in the playoffs, but that was when he was in the top 6. Aside from that, he did not pick up a point since getting demoted to the third line. Leahy had no points on that third line, and he was -4. So, yeah, the third line needs to be much better. They did not score any goals, and also the plus-minus was rough. So the third line's been the main issue so far. From a left-wing perspective, Crane on 11 points, he's been good. All 3 of his goals came in 1 game, but he does have 8 more assists on top of that, so that's really good. Frundell's point per game since getting demoted to the second line, he's been good too. Silfito on 6 points, he's been great. Ragnarsson, since being put on the top line, did pick up 3 assists, which is good. But he could get demoted back down to the third line probably to start next episode, just because obviously we should be running Bjorkstrand as a top liner, even though he's an 89, just because he's getting paid like a top line guy too. So, and a Biggers 2 points. So no real complaints about the left wingers. Left wing / right wingers, I guess I should say. Jarvis on 2 points. Obviously that came in the last game, so not bad from him. Neil Kynan, no points. So basically, if you look at it from a forward perspective, you could definitely see the depth scoring is not the best. Like, technically everybody that's been in our top 6, mostly everybody, has been point per game. Ragnarsson obviously played only a couple games in the top 6, but he's been point per game since being up there in the top 6, I think. The only one that really didn't do well as the top 6 guy was Bjorkstrand. And then from like that third line perspective, you could see Leahy, Neil Kynan, and then I guess technically it was Ragnarsson. They didn't have points when they were all together, which is kind of questionable. So we definitely need to address the depth scoring a little bit. But from an offensive standpoint, the top 6 did a lot of good work. From a defensive standpoint, though, this is the crazy thing. Olli Houghton, the Norris Trophy winning defenseman the last 2 years, probably wins another one this year. 11 points in 6 playoff games, including 5 goals. This guy is absolutely cracked, and I love it. Like I said, I think he might be next in line for the captaincy. It's either him or Crane, in my opinion, if we do move on from Frundell. I just been really liking the way Houghton's been playing. The last 2 years, he's been picking up a lot of points. Great plus-minus this playoff run so far. He almost has as much points as he did last year through 15 games. So, Houghton has still, I think, a next level to attain, and I think he could definitely reach that. He's been just so good. And his contract is also a very nice one. Like, he's getting paid for 8 years, sure, but he's got 13.65, which is really not that much for a guy that picks up that much amount of points. And also, he does have that modified no trade clause that kicks in a few years. So, technically, if he does drop off a cliff and we want to trade him away, we can. But he's been a beast on defense for us. Tatar on 4 points plus 4. He's been good. Schaefer 1 assist. Not a lot of points from the back end. Maybe a little bit disappointed with Holmstrom because he hasn't been that good offensively so far, but still a lot of time left in this postseason to potentially get his offense going. And from a goaltending perspective, I think he might have been the MVP the first round other than our top 6. That being Solovyov, a .939 save percentage for number 39 through 6 games. A 1.8 goals against average as well. That is definitely what I want to see from a guy like Solovyov. Like I said, when he has kind of like average regular seasons, like he actually had a pretty good season this year, but when he has like seasons like this, usually the playoffs, he finds himself a lot. So, yeah, I'm really liking the way he's been playing. Really like it. He's actually had 300 career wins now, which I didn't even realize in the last episode. But yeah, he's finding himself quite a bit these last 2 playoffs especially. So, good stuff from him. How long has he signed for again? Because I don't remember. 3 more years. All right. So there is that. So a pretty good first round for this team. Now the question is, who are we playing in round number 2? And is it a team we could beat, or are we going to find ourselves getting cheesed in the second round? Because we should be one of the best teams in the playoffs, right? We're going to be taking on the Philadelphia Flyers. Oh boy, this is going to be a tough one. Philadelphia is an interesting team. They end up winning the division, and I think they were close to winning the President's Trophy as well. So we do have to face off against one of the toughest teams remaining. There's also Montreal, Florida, Winnipeg, and Seattle, Edmonton, and Dallas. So 3 Canadian teams still in the mix, which is interesting. But yeah, Philadelphia was a really good team during the regular season, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they finished above us. If we go to entire league, they were the second best team, right? It was Chicago that won the President's Trophy. So Philly is the best team from this Eastern Conference. If we go back over to the Metro to do a comparison in the regular season, you can see they finished 2 points above us, not by much, so that's why they have home ice. They were scoring way more goals for per game than us. Their defensive play was a little bit worse than ours, but it was very similar. Their power play percentage was only a little bit better by 0.3%, and their penalty kill was worse than ours by like 4.2%. Interesting. We also both had around the same amount of shorthanded goals. They were 6-3-1 going into the playoffs. We almost actually caught up to them and took the division from them, so that's kind of interesting. This is going to be a good matchup, I think. The Philadelphia Flyers, have they ever won a cup in this series? I don't feel like they have. I honestly don't even remember. But let's look at some team stats and do a comparison here as well in this playoff run, because obviously that could be a little bit different from the regular season. So they went to 7 games in the first round. We went to 6. We're scoring right around the same amount of goals for per game. We're actually better offensively than they are, better defensively. They're allowing more goals than they scored. That is not what I want to see, because that just makes me feel like we're definitely going to lose if I see a team that's allowed more goals than they scored. It's only 1 more goal, but still. Their power play was 25%, which is really good, but ours was 40%, so our power play did a lot of work actually in that first round, more than I anticipated. And in penalty kill perspective, our penalty kill was better than theirs. So we were technically better than them in everything in the first round. However, they are definitely, I think, a team that's going to be better than what this suggests, I think. All right. Well, let's take a look at their roster, and then we'll take a look at their stats as well from the playoffs, like their player stats, just to see who's been doing what for them. But I feel like we've never played the Flyers in the postseason before. And if we have, maybe it was a while back, but I feel like we've never played them. So, Philadelphia, what do they got? First line, Eli Burkholz, only 21 years old, high elite, that was drafted 2nd overall 3 years ago. So, they are newly good in the playoffs, I guess. Let's take a look at this. 2 times in the playoffs. Yeah, I guess they're a newish playoff team. Yeah, this year that he was a -16, they probably weren't very good, but this guy's starting to find that next level for the Flyers. All right. Then they also do have William Eklund, which was a guy that I think back in the early stages of this year, some of you guys were saying I should bring in, but I didn't end up. And they also have Matvei Michkov as well. So that top line is filthy. Michkov, Eklund, and Burkholz, one of the better top lines we've seen. Second line has Caleb Odeline, 26 years of age. Also drafted by the Flyers 9 years ago. Let's take a look at his playoff record. Oh, maybe they did win a Stanley Cup in 2035. Maybe they did, because it does. Yeah, I think they might have actually won a cup in the series. Maybe not. Actually, no, maybe they lost in the finals a couple years ago. And then they drafted second overall the year afterwards. Is that actually what happened? Let me take a look at this again for a second here. Because 2034-35, they played 24 games that postseason, which means they definitely went to the finals and lost. Eli Burkholz was drafted second overall in 2036. So yeah, I think definitely the year after they went to the Stanley Cup Finals, they were absolute crap. They drafted Burkholz second overall, and now they're back in the playoffs again. So that's kind of scary. That's kind of scary. Their second line center is Parker Reimer, and then they also have Cole Newberg. Yeah, that's a really good top six. A lot of Highland talent. I would assume that their defensive core and stuff is a little bit weaker, because I feel like they're spending a lot of money on offense. Third line has Noel Nord. It also has Caleb Desnoyers as an 85. And what's your name, Pascal? Philippe Lacroix. Fourth line has Eno Jokela, as well as Justin Sordiff and Riley Boychuk. Yeah. Didn't we play Riley Boychuk recently in the playoffs? I feel like I've seen him recently. Maybe it was in my other franchise mode I've played him recently. I honestly don't even know. But yeah, that's a very solid offensive core. Good depth. A little bit weaker on the, I'd say on the wings maybe. Especially on the right wing side of things, but it's still good. Defensive core. They have Jonathan Sierra, former Islanders defenseman. I forgot about that, because we traded him to Utah and he signed with the Flyers as a free agent. So yeah, his first season with Philadelphia, he had a career high in points, it looks like. His plus minus was good. So yeah, we have to go up against former defenseman Jonathan Sierra. He hasn't been that great so far in the playoffs, but he has playoff experience, of course. Man, it's weird seeing Sierra as a top 2 defenseman. He's getting paid some good money too to be in Philadelphia, so shout out to him. He's going to be playing next to a 90 overall in Wade Healy. Yeah, that's a pretty good top 2. Second pairing has Carter Yakemchuk and what's your name again? Alphonse Frige, I think it's pronounced. And I forgot about this too. We traded Walker Osgood to Philadelphia before he made his debut with us, and Cassivi. I forgot about this. How did I not remember this in the last episode when I saw Philadelphia assimilating so well? So basically, Philadelphia is a graveyard of former defenders of ours, and we're going to have to go through them with our current defensive core. That's interesting, because Osgood and Cassivi both didn't really get much of a shot here. Osgood had 30 points in his rookie season with the Philadelphia Flyers, plus 37. Holy crap, okay. Was not expecting that. So Osgood could have been a good defenseman to keep on our blue line, but at the same time, it was a very big logjam. But I was not expecting him to have 30 points. Playoffs, he has only the 1 assist so far, but a really good rookie year for Walker Osgood. As a DFD too. I don't know how he had 30 points as a DFD in his rookie season, but not going to complain. But it is going to be scary going up against him and Sierra. And then Craig Cassivi, 1 season here with the Islanders, 25 points this year with the Flyers. Actually, 2 seasons with the Islanders, I should say. Yeah, pretty good stuff from him too. And in playoffs, he has no points so far. Interesting. So, Osgood, Cassivi, and Sierra, are they going to come back to bite us, or are they going to find a way to end up losing against us? From a goaltending perspective, Devin Levi is their starter. And we know Devin Levi could simulate really good in franchise mode at times. During the regular season, he has been good. Last year, he was really good. This year, not as good. Playoffs, though. He's had some good playoffs in the past. But an 898 this year in the playoffs so far is not ideal. But I know he can still simulate like a good goaltender. So he is a good goalie. Just hopefully we don't get cheesed because of him. Their backup is Xander Springus. What a name. What a name. So there's their 1-2 punch. Scratch, they do have, what's your name? Dustin Cope. And they also do have Grant Bolt. I remember Grant Bolt for some reason. Carolina. Why do I remember Grant Bolt? Carolina. Must have been Carolina. I honestly remember him in a draft or something. Maybe we played him in the playoffs. They also do have, what's your name? Norm Jovanovski as another depth option. So from an offensive standpoint, they're very good. From a defensive standpoint, they're solid. And then from a goaltending perspective, they're solid. So I could definitely see why they were a good team during the regular season, but it does scare me that we have to go up against 3 former defenders. Like, I don't know how Osgood had that good of a rookie year as a DFD, but him and Cassivi seem to work really well together, which is good to see, just because obviously I do like to see success from former players of ours, but I don't like running into them in the postseason, so to speak. So there's that. We'll just take a look at their player stats in this postseason so far. They are allowing more goals than they're scoring right now, so hopefully they do not find their offensive game against us next round. Hopefully we do get that good goaltending still from Solovyov. But right now the guys to watch out for: Parker Reimer, Odeline, and Michkov. Those guys are over point per game. Everybody else is below point per game, but Burkholz is leading the team in goals for Philadelphia. William Eklund's also been close to point per game. Yeah, so in general, their top 6 is doing a lot of their offense, which is not really a surprise. But they aren't getting that depth scoring, so that's interesting. 3 of our defenders that used to play with us are all down there in their points, so I expect them to score goals against us, though. I just do. And from a goaltending perspective, we saw Levi wasn't doing that good. Well, Springus only played, actually, he almost played a full game. He was not very good as well. An .807 save percentage, so the Flyers kind of got lucky that they actually were not knocked out in the first round after a really good season. Who did they even play again, out of curiosity? They were playing against Buffalo. So Buffalo almost beat them, which is kind of a surprise, because Buffalo never usually does well, but it does. It is what it is. Anything else we want to take a look at before we end off this episode? I don't think so. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Vernier Calendars Franchise Mode. So in next episode, we'll take it to the second round of the playoffs against some former defenders on the Philadelphia Flyers, as we look to hopefully find a way to beat them. They did allow a lot of goals in the first round, so I think we could definitely still beat them. But I am a little bit worried that they might find their defensive game, and they might continue to score goals like they've been doing so far in the playoffs, which means it might be a little bit of an offensive battle. And I expect Solovyov's stats to not look as good after the next round, regardless if we win or lose. So listen down below, and I'll see you guys next time.